Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Michael, or Kiratze online. Hopefully you guys are having a great day. I am back with another replay quick play. Although this one, I'm not sure if it's going to be really quick at all. I am going to be playing my control deck, and also it was a very, very interactive and a long game. Or not super long, but it definitely was longer than the average match. And I played against a typical Jax Vanar, your basic old tempo Vanar where they're built in towards Jax True Sight and then Razorbacking your face in, utilizing Chromatic Cold and Hailstones to get tempo, and then Twilights to get those back for more awesome shenanigans, because those are extremely powerful removal cards. And I wanted to replay a quick play this game because it was just an extremely fun game, and it was very interactive, and it also, not only that, it just showcased the power of my hard Nova deck and sort of exactly what I was going for when I built it, which was an actual full control deck. It was, if you guys don't know, if you guys haven't seen the deck tech, I made one for it a few days ago, and I haven't changed the list because I hadn't need to. I'm currently climbing through Diamond with this. I'm sitting about halfway through rank 4. I've lost just like the past couple of games, I think, or I've lost like a few games, I think, out of the past 10 or 13 or so. Which is pretty good at diamond level, I think, for a deck such as this, where people sort of diss on on Shadow Nova, but I think people maybe just aren't playing it in the right style. I see a lot of Nova players playing it a little bit burn, almost, but I don't think that's the correct way to play it. I think adopting a full control playstyle is actually not that bad in Abyssian Shadow Nova. And this list is really, really fun. It's pretty tough to pilot. There's a lot of different choices you have to make. And the reason why I say this isn't probably going to be a quick play, this is probably just going to be a replay not so quick play, is because I am going to be I'll probably end up pausing and stuff like that, because I really want to be very in depth with my decision, discussing sort of my thought process during the game, and what decisions I had to make, and sort of other directions I could have possibly gone, better plays I could have taken, because I really love this deck. This deck is a lot of fun, and it's different. Not many people play Shadow Nova in the higher ranks. I've met a couple of Shadow Nova decks, but they've been on the burn side of things as opposed to more just being very reactive. And you'll see what I mean by being reactive. Like a control deck, if you guys don't really know like the basis of a control deck, it's very just draw go. You're extremely reactive, only do things when you need to, and you really utilize your health as a resource, in the sense that as long as you're not dead or going to die the next turn, you're control of the board and control of the game, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. And the game I'm about to show you is a good example of not losing your cool, just making the appropriate play when possible. I do make some misplays, but we'll go over those when I get to them. But yeah, if you guys don't know, this is just a full control list where we're have a lot of controlling cards like Knights or Assassin, Ritual Banishing. We have a full 3 Dark Transformation, and we have a Deathblader in conjunction with Shadow Nova being a finisher or possible board control, as well as Spectral Revenant to top us off, because those are both extremely good late game cards. And yeah, let's get to it. So this is against a Jax Vanar, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. Ooh, this is nice to see. A lot of gold. A lot of wins. I like I said in my other videos, I haven't had much time to play. I also just haven't chose really to play. I decided not to stress about getting to S rank. I've I guess proven myself. I got S rank the first month I played. Second month I played as well, both with Abyssian. This is my 3rd month of playing. I'm pretty sure I can still get to Abyssian, but if I just don't want to rush it. I don't want to. There's other stuff I want to do in life, other games to play, and just other stuff I need to take care of as well. So I decided not to stress about getting S rank too much, because I'm not looking to be the most competitive player. All right, so we have a lot of control in our hand. Pretty terrible hand to start off with, but we don't need anything. We want to look for some early drops. I almost keep a Dark Transformation because it is a good answer to Fenrir War Master, but I decided to opt against it and increase my chances of getting something early to play, because getting on the board early is pretty important against Vanar. The name of the game, and just to sort of go over how you want to think in a matchup like this, as Abyssian, it's all about board control against Vanar, and you have one of the best tools against them, which is Grasp of Agony. So I was also on the hunt for Grasp of Agony, because that is MVP in this matchup. Just like Void Pulse is MVP in Songhai matchup, Grasp of Agony is extremely good in the Vanar matchup. They like to clump their stuff together, and a lot of their minions are just low health because they like to just flood the board and then buff up with Razorback. So cards like Spectral Blade and Grasp of Agony are extremely good. So we actually have a pretty good opening play. We can go Healing Mystic into Spectral Blade, but I decided to get rid of the Void Pulse because that's too much healing, and we actually have a better play available to us now. I decided to play Healing Mystic and then take the mana tile he was going for up here. This disallows him from walking on top of a mana tile. Alternatively, I could have just played Healing Mystic, prep my Spectral Blade, but I didn't want him to just walk on this mana tile and get that free mana, in addition to possibly running down here and playing other stuff as well. I decided to just take the mana tile. This also means that I can pretty much ensure I have something left over, unless he spends some resource out of hand. So if he wants to kill his Healing Mystic, he has to run up here, hit it, run up here, hit it, and kill it off that way. But at least I have something left over to be able to deal with Healing Mystic afterwards, or potentially just deal with whatever he has next. But we have the Spectral Blade to deal with the Fenrir War Master that's potentially going to come out this turn, or at least the first half of it. And even though it does summon another 3/3, since we are able to preserve all of our charges, or maximize the amount of charges we have for our Spectral Blade, we're able to kill off this, use this to kill off this, and then he has to make a decision of, okay, well, does he want to run his general into me to get rid of the last charge as well as the last half of Fenrir War Beast, or what exactly does he want to do? So I decided to run down here, contest this mana tile. This also means that he has to choose between my charges or killing off what I have on the board, and he does opt for clearing off my charges by running the last half of his Ghost or his Fenrir into my general, which we're getting value out of that because we essentially had a 2 mana card remove his 3 mana card, in addition to getting 4 damage on his face, which is really, really good. That's why Spectral Blade is just amazing in the Vanar matchup. Even if you are just killing off one minion, killing off Fenrir is really, really important because it's such a sticky minion, and because we have no dispels, it's really, really tough for us to deal with it anyways. So he decides to clear off my last charge, and he decides to play Emerald Rejuvenator, but I actually luckily drew into the other Spectral Blade, which is actually really good for me. Normally, having 2 Spectral Blades is sort of bleh, but when we're at a state where the board is under control, having just as much board control as possible is really, really good. And we get our first Grasp of Agony, which is good when we're really just looking to be reactive and control his board. So obviously, if you're playing a burn deck, sometimes you might have just wanted to Grasp of Agony that to get some damage in, but we're a very reactive deck. We're a full control deck, and it's all about controlling the board. As Vanar, they have very few ways to deal damage out of hand, and so keeping that in mind, you're really able to calculate, okay, what's the maximum amount of damage they can have, because I know what kind of deck he's playing. Most Vanars are the typical same deck. They have a couple of Hearth Sisters, they have Fenrirs, Hailstone Prisms, Chromatic Colds, Twilight Sorcerers, Jack's True Sight, Razorback, sometimes Dancing Blade. They're a very predictable deck, and this is where, just as a deck builder, knowing what's popular on the ladder and knowing what popular lists people are playing in other factions is a very, very good thing to know. Even if you're playing just a shenanigans-based deck, because it allows you to play accordingly, and as long as you know your deck and know your opponent's deck, you can make appropriate plays. You also notice I didn't move my Healing Mystic anywhere. I used my General plus another minion to block him off, since I want to be able to preserve as much as my board as possible. When we're ahead on board, I want to be able to use this 2/1 to be able to deal with something else. Not only that, if he happens to want to protect whatever he plays on the board, he has to spend an additional thing out of hand to deal with my last half of my Healing Mystic, which is a win for me, since I would essentially get a 2-for-1 at that point if you happen to use like a Chromatic Cold or something like that, because it killed off his Healing Mystic, and then it would have killed off something else as well. So he decides to run off to protect his stuff, possibly. But we draw into Crossbones, which is good because we haven't seen any Jaxies yet, and it's just a good answer to make sure we don't have to waste a lure on it, especially when we're able to deal with especially when we're able to develop 2 tiles like this. It's really good to keep on to lure, being able to just move something on there that has 3 health and kill it off outright. So perfect answers. We can clear off his whole board here. I opt for just staying in the middle of the board, just keeping control of the middle, and staying around my tiles. Because Vanar sometimes likes to block you in as well. Being close to your mana tiles makes it a lot less efficient for him to actually do that. So I decided to move up here, keep my tiles closer to me, kill off his Hearth Sister. I kill off his Jaxi and then play Crossbones between us. So this also, not only do we just keep board control, be able to deal with this threat, but Crossbones is nice because it doesn't die to just a general attack. He has to spend an additional resource to deal with it. And this also preserves my last, placing him right here preserves my last charge. Since he's not able to run up and hit me with his general, he has to spend out-of-hand resources to do so if he thinks it's that big of a deal. So right here, he floods the board with Jack's True Sight. Now, I should have probably played sort of around that, but there wasn't a way I could have done that and still sort of protect my charge that I had on me. I should have expected that. I wasn't really thinking about Jack's True Sight. Sort of a misplay on my part, but we have tools to be able to deal with the majority of his board, and we're still at a relatively high life total, so this is all right. And we're starting to draw our late game cards. So this is a turn where there's a lot of different ways I could have gone. Quite a few ways I could have gone. Well, actually, no, maybe not this turn. But I like all my cards. We have a lot of late game, and we have cards to be able to maximize our damage. So right here was actually a misplay. I Grasp of Agony this. I'm able to kill off everything here, this is where Grasp of Agony is just huge. Being able to just hold out on value for Grasp of Agony when turns like this, where they do try to flood the board, that's when you can really maximize your Grasp of Agony value. And this is sort of how you want to play as a control. Like, you want to be very reactive. You'll notice I held on to that Grasp of Agony where I could have used it at other times. So right here, I'm able to play Grasp of Agony, Emerald, and Lure. So I'm able to deal with his whole corner here. I'm able to deal with an additional Lure or an additional Jaxi, and I'm also able to develop a 4/4. But a misplay here because I should have actually ran this way and then used my Crossbones to actually activate Grasp of Agony and kill off the Dreamgazer. He would have been able to use this Jaxi to finish this one off, but at least moving over here in this tile, he can't just kill me outright like this, even if he played Razorback. So if he played Razorback, I'd be taking 6 damage, but that's all right. At least I would be able to contest the Jaxi's next turn with my General, not to mention have a Spectral Revenant to maybe kill off the other one. The reason I did it this way was because I was thinking, okay, well, I want to get close to this one, and I can run up here next turn and kill us off, and if I place Emerald here, this Emerald can actually contest these, but in reality, I should have played a little bit better there. Because we have Lure to deal with an additional one, so even if I ran over here and left Crossbones here, I could have actually just lured this one. So that was a misplay on my part. I didn't really think through it too well, I guess. And we're just trying to minimize the amount of damage he can do with Jack's True Sight or Jack's True Sight and Razorback. So we're at a point where we have our late game. We are at a healthy life total, and this is exactly what you want as a control player. Just control the board, and especially against Vanar. Like I said, Vanar has very few ways to deal out-of-hand damage without a board state. So, and he can't double Razorback here. So I'm still at a relatively high life total, and not to mention he still has to deal with my board because I am threatening his Jaxi. So yeah. Also, now my Crossbones is sort of useless if he does play Razorback here, since one of these can deal with that. So yeah, that was a misplay on my last turn. A little bit, since I felt like I still wanted to be closer to him, but in reality, that's not what I should be doing as a control player, especially with a deck like this. We're fine with just running away, playing the long game, and as long as if we're dealing stuff that's near us, he has to run closer to us to be able to threaten us with his minions. So that's perfectly fine. He decides to block me off. This is another reason why this wasn't that great, but that's all right. And then he does Razorback. So we've seen 2 Razorbacks. He's running out of gas because this is where a lot of his damage comes from, but he's using it for board. So as long as we're able to just keep threatening his stuff and force him to deal with our board and keep our health total high, we're in a pretty good position. So I like my late game here. We're at the stage where I just want to keep all my late game pretty much. I decide to get rid of Jaxi because it's not that great at this stage of game when we don't really have too many dispel targets in the mid game or early game, and except Jaxi, and we didn't play Jaxi obviously, and he doesn't really care about doing the Abyssal Crawler stuff. So playing Jaxi now would just mean it would get removed fairly easily for an even amount. So I decided to get rid of it, and we draw into Twilight Sorcerer, which is probably the best thing we could have drawn other than our other Grasp of Agony. But because Grasp of Agony and Demonic Lure were the only things we've played so far, either one of those cards is good. Obviously, Grasp of Agony would be better here, but even if we get Demonic Lure, at least it's a way for us to deal with this far away mini Jaxi. Because if he has stuff clumped close by together like this, at least I have Shadow Nova to deal with, and other Grasp of Agony down the road to deal with clumped up stuff. But right now, I have nothing to threaten this, since this is just going to die. But luckily, we win the random chance. We get Grasp of Agony back, just showcasing the power of Grasp of Agony against Vanar again. And yeah, I decided to just threaten up here, because why not force him to, kill it off right here. But, he has another Razorback, I believe. But we're drawing more of our late game. We have another really good card against Vanar. I've been actually really liking Deathblighter. Because we're fine with handling the late game, I like one of Deathblighter. It definitely makes things a lot better when you're in control of the game, and you can get a lot of value against decks that try to flood the board in one turn in the late game. Like when you're able to control the board against Vitruvian, when they try to reflood the board to be able to have more Third Wish targets, Deathblighter is actually pretty good. And I've actually liked the card. I know it's not an amazing card, but having a Grasp of Agony attached to a body that's a little bit tougher to play around is really, really good. Not to mention, in conjunction with Grasp of Agony is huge. So he has another Razorback. Bad news for me, because now he can use this Jaxi to kill off this Crossbones, and this Jaxi is going to go uncontested, and it's going to be able to kill off my Twilight Sorcerer as well. So now it's a little bit worrisome, but because he's already used a lot of Razorbacks, I don't have to worry about too much more damage other than what he has on board. It's still a little bit tough. And here he is playing around Grasp of Agony. But this is where Deathblighter can come in handy. But this was another turn where I wasn't really sure what to do, because there was a couple of ways I could have gone. I could have I could have just moved here, played Deathblighter here. The problem with this play is that I need to threaten this. That's the important thing, because like I said, we're fine with playing the late game, and Shadow Nova can take care of anything that's clumped together. Additionally, I'm still able to get out of range of Razorback, so if I keep running this way, not only does his minions have to run through my Shadow Creep tile, so he has to play around that. He has to, or Shadow Creep tiles. If he wants to play stuff around, it just makes it a little bit more awkward playing around my Shadow Creep tiles. So I want to stay near those. And additionally, I want to be able to possibly get in range of Spectral Revening if I have to, because I don't want to use a Shadow Nova up here. No point. So I decided to use Shadow Nova here to be able to kill off this Jaxi, because it's the ranged minion that can still hit me. Run away. That means only this can hit me. His general, if he wants to get close to me. And then that mini Jax as well. But we got to threaten that. I replaced Into Night's Assassin, which is a way to possibly finish the game off, but also it's just a way for us to remove something important if we need to. So we're still in a really good position. Obviously, it's a little bit worrisome at this board state, but as a control deck, you're really just worrying about being in control. I know that sounds silly, but that's pretty much it. You just need to know your matchup. As a control deck, you want to just have as much knowledge as you can on how to play your deck and also what your opponent can possibly do. So this can also build our Shadow Creep tiles if we happen to draw into our other Shadow Nova, which means we can have potential finishers. So actually, if he happens to run towards me, I have lethal with my other Shadow Nova. Since we were able to develop 2 Shadow Creep in the early turns, the second Shadow Nova is going to be 10 damage. In addition to my general attack, it'll be 11 damage. So he has to start worrying about my Shadow Nova stuff, and he's going to want to start to try to end the game fairly quickly. And I know this, and he's obviously going to try and pressure me, so I need to play accordingly for that. Now, he has a pretty good play here. He actually Hailstone Prisms his own Healing Mystic and heals himself. He was very conscious of that second Shadow Nova because this actually gets him out of lethal. We have Void Pulses in our hand, so we can potentially still draw into lethal. So I'm not sure if he was worrying about that. I don't think we've played Void Pulses this game. I can't remember. So he doesn't know we have Void Pulses, but yeah, he is obviously pumping up everything because he wants to kill us. But, you know, we're the control matchup. Getting a Grasp of Agony would be huge. We have our second Grasp of Agony still in the deck. I don't really care about Dark Transformation at this point. Other than Fenrir, there's not really any of the targets to hit. It's going to be more about him flooding the board and buffing things up at this point. So we're just going for the board control route. Kill everything off here. Run away. That means only Healing Mystic can hit me. And I'm still out of range of his general as well. And out of range of Razorback. And he's already played two Razorbacks, and obviously both Primus Fists, and other than Chromatic Colds, and possibly maybe Saber Spines if he's playing some weird stuff like that. He has no way to deal with killing me, even from this amount of health. So I am at a relatively low life total, but like I said, knowing your matchup and how much damage it can possibly do, just assess the situation and play accordingly. And a control deck is perfectly fine. Like, as a control deck, using your health as a resource is like, a control deck's the main kind of deck you want to really be conscious of that. And as long as you're at one life and you're not dead, and you're, you know, you still have control of the game and know your opponent, it's perfectly fine. Like, obviously, if I was against Songhai, I'd be very, very scared right now. But I know I'm against Vanar. I've been in control of the game pretty much the whole game, and we've been having good plays so far. So this is why I don't really like Jaxi in the late game against Vanar. Just gets removed too easily, because we don't really have too many dispel targets in the early to mid game if we don't draw Jaxi early on. So it's a little bit too bad. And he's going to start pressuring me here, but he has very few buff cards left, so I'm not too worried. So he decides to Healing Mystic, start healing himself out of range of Shadow Nova. Sort of sucks, but that's all right. Even if I draw into my third Shadow Nova, it would be lethal. It'd be 4, 8, 12. Actually, no, it would be 1 off lethal. But we still have Void Pulses and stuff, and we still have a lot of burn, so not too big of a deal. He does play Twilight Sorcerer, so we could potentially have another Chromatic Cold or Hailstone Prism. So now I have to be conscious of that. But I do have a lot of healing in hand, so that is still perfectly fine with me. Still keeping out of range of his Razorback. Here, there was a couple of different things. There was 2 different things I could have done. I could have looked for... I wouldn't have been able to look for a lethal here. Spectral Revenant and Shadow Nova are our 2 biggest cards, and I have no combination of cards that would actually draw me lethal. So that sort of sucks. So now it's all about board control. I decided Spectral Revenant. It creates pressure, kills off his biggest threat. Now here, I could have actually played Healing Mystic, or I could have played Spectral Blade. If I was going to play Healing Mystic, I would have played it up here to just keep blocking off his Razorback. And I would have wanted to hit his Healing Mystic, because if I left this Healing Mystic alive, I would be very worried if he happened to draw into the third Razorback. That would have been really, really bad for me, because Razorback plus that Chromatic Cult he possibly could have got from Twilight Sorcerer would have killed me. And his biggest threat is Razorback, so any sort of buff to this is really, really bad for me if I'm still in range of that. So getting away from this is my main concern. So there's no way for me to do that and still kill off one of his bodies. So I decided to go down here, use Spectral Blade instead, because also if he does happen to draw into buffs and he does run Healing Mystic into me, at least I would get some healing off of it to mitigate some of that damage and possibly stay alive. So even though I'm at a really low life total, again, I'm still not worried. He possibly has Chromatic Cold, but that still wouldn't kill me. And we have lethal next turn, depending on what he does. We actually have a pretty sweet lethal with Spectral Revenant and Void Pulse from all the way across the map. And I know he has a Chromatic Cold, potentially, but leaving the leaving the Spectral Revenant also gives me a good tell on what he may have. So he has possibly a Hailstone and a Chromatic Cold. He just Twilight Sorcered again, so he may have a Hailstone Prism or a Chromatic Cold. So if he happened to draw into 2 Chromatic Colds, that still would be fine with me, because he wouldn't be able to play everything at once. He'd be able to play 2 Chromatic Colds. Or actually, he would be able to play 2 Chromatic Colds, but it wouldn't be lethal, because 2, 4, 6, I'd still be at 2 health. And yeah, even though that's scary, he only has 1 mana, and Vanar has no way to do that much damage out of hand with 1 mana. So and that would be the most he could do out of hand at this point. I guess maybe even like Saber Spine plus Primus Fist wouldn't kill me. So yeah, assessing the situation, I'm still not worried. He decides to just go for the win, which I don't think it was the right play. He could have Chromatic Colded this. He could have ran Twilight Sorcerer up here, killed this, and still start pressuring me. Because either way, I still get a turn. I'm still at 2 health, so if I drew into Shadow Nova, he still would have died. So I don't think that was the right play for him. Also, yeah, don't think that was the right play for him, but, you know, he wanted to try and go for the win, I guess. The following turn, he probably had maybe another Chromatic Cold or Saber Spine or some way out of hand. But like I said, Vanar has very few ways to deal damage at hand. So this is very safe to play like this. So yeah, and we get an awesome lethal. Because he didn't dispel the Spectral Revenant, I'm able to run this over here, kill off Razorback for 4 damage, and also have a Spectral Revenant spawn here to hit him for 6. That's 10 damage, and then Void Pulse finishes him off for 12 damage. We'll get a little bit of overkill there. But yeah, even though I'm at 2 health, I'm a control deck. I can be at 1 health, and I'll be, as long as I know I'm in no way in threat of dying, I'm still keeping my cool. And this is what a control deck wants. Just being very reactive, keeping control of things where you can, and yeah, preserving your life where you can, but ultimately your health is a resource. And thanks to cards like Spectral Revenant, thanks to cards like Shadow Nova, things like that, you're able to do board control and chip away at your opponent's health a lot of the time. And a lot of the time, your opponent's going to just chip away their own health by utilizing their general to deal with your minions, and also just hitting you in the face. So you have a lot of burst damage in Abyssian, and that's what's really nice about making a control deck, is that even though you have such controlling cards, you still have quite a bit of damage in here. And I think this shell of like a full control list with like a lot of removal just plays really well into the Shadow Nova game, and it works out. I really like the deck. It's a lot of fun. I apologize, this was a really long replay quick play, or a replay not so quick play, but like I said, I really wanted to be fairly in depth with this one, because there's a lot of different choices you can make with this deck. It's a very tough deck to play, but it's very rewarding. And you know, there's not really many full control lists in Abyssian. There's some flex spots as well. Like you could take out Crossbones, maybe put in like a Breath of the Unborn. If you're seeing a lot of like Jax Vanar, that would help out a lot. And there's a lot of different things you can do with this deck. But you know, having the full set of Dark Transformations, Death Blighter, Ritual Banishing, even though we didn't really use those cards, they were there, and we could have used them at opportune times. But we still have plenty of other ways to deal with multiple threats. You saw we were able to deal with like sort of aggro and them flooding the board against Lionar. Our single target removal's super good, and against like Songhai, even, you know, Void Pulses and all of our healing, we can outlast them a lot of the time as well, as long as they don't get the nut draw. And yeah, when we're in racing situations, Knights or Assassins, you know, Shadow Novas and Spectral Revenants, it's still a lot of damage, not to mention Void Pulses, Spectral Blades, Grasp of Agony. You can still race your opponent when it comes down to it as well. So yeah, other than that, that was the game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this longer video, and hopefully you guys enjoy some of this more in-depth conversation on some of my decks. But I am really a huge fan of this deck. It's a lot of fun, and if you guys are looking forward a full control Abyssian list, this might be the style for you. There's some spots you can tweak to adapt to your own playstyle, but you know, the list I made right here is what I'm happy with, and it's been working out so far. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the description or in the comments below. Take care. Hope you guys have a great night, day, morning, wherever you are. And I'll be back with some more deck techs, replays, and decking around episodes in the future. And also let me know what you guys think, what you guys would like in the comments below. I'm always open for sort of new content ideas. But until then, I'll talk to you guys later. And take care.